G'day, welcome to Walking Through the Word. My name's James Hornby. I'm the lead minister of the All Saints Anglican Network. So join me as we walk through the Word each week, unpacking a portion of the Bible, and feel free to comment, to ask questions, to get involved, and we'll work through this together. I'm so glad you can join us. Duck inside as we get on to the next episode. Welcome to Looking Through Luke. We again pick it up in the first chapter of Luke's Gospel, the account of the life and ministry of Jesus. In the last couple of weeks, we've been looking at the announcement by the angel Gabriel to Zachariah as he's in the temple serving the Lord, that he's going to have a son. We've previously looked at the fact that of who this son will be and what he will do, what's the purpose of his life, his ministry and mission, the kind of person that he'll be and how he's to live. And today we pick it up from verse 18, which is Zachariah's response to the angel's message. I love this bit. Let me read it. Zachariah asked the angel, "How can I be sure of this? I am an old man and my wife is well along in years." She obviously wasn't with him at the time. You would never say that if your wife was standing next to you, would you? Verse 19. The angel said to him, "I am Gabriel. I stand in the presence of God, and I've been sent to speak to you and to tell you this good news. And now you will be silent and not be able to speak until the day this happens, because you did not believe my words, which will come true at their appointed time." Meanwhile, the people were waiting for Zachariah and wondering why he stayed so long in the temple. When he came out, he could not speak to them. They realized he had seen a vision in the temple, for he kept making signs to them, but remained unable to speak. When his time of service was completed, he returned home. After this, his wife Elizabeth became pregnant and for 5 months remained in seclusion. "The Lord has done this for me," she said. "In these days he has shown his favor and taken away my disgrace among the people." Well, it's a great way to finish off this encounter between Zachariah and the angel Gabriel. In response to the news from Gabriel that Zachariah is to have a son whose name will be John, who will be great in the eyes of the Lord, Zachariah asks the angel, "How can I be sure of this?" And I love that question because it shows us that Zachariah is caught off guard here. This is not something he expected. We know that earlier in the chapter when the angel appears and we see that Zachariah was startled and gripped with great fear. Having heard the message of Gabriel, he now says, "Well, how can I be sure of this?" Here's why I like it. I like it because it's completely human. It's completely natural. Sometimes, at least for me, when I read the Bible, in my mind, I have this idea that biblical figures somehow responded to the miraculous as if it was common, as if it was every day. As if Zachariah was there in the temple and Gabriel appeared and told him this incredible news and Zachariah, "Yeah, sure, sounds good," and just kept going on with his day. No, Zachariah is shocked. He's caught off guard. And so in a typically human response, he asks for a sign. How can I be sure? Well, what does the angel say? The angel says to him, "I am Gabriel." Now, I don't know about you, but that wouldn't necessarily comfort me. If I walked into a room and someone said, "Who are you?" and I said, "I am James," well, I don't know what kind of effect that would have. But the point is that Gabriel isn't your ordinary person. He's an angel. I am Gabriel. In fact, he's not just any angel. And Zachariah would have known this. Gabriel was considered one of the significant angels in the service of God. In fact, in Jewish tradition, he's one of 4 really significant and prominent angels. Alongside Michael and Raphael and Uriel, you have Gabriel. He's appeared in the Old Testament, bringing news to people at different times as a messenger of God. So when he says, I am Gabriel, with that comes the authority that he has and the position that he has as a messenger of God. It probably helps too that he's an angel. That would have an impact on me, I think. I am Gabriel. I stand in the presence of God. That's my position. I'm close to God. I'm not even your ordinary run-of-the-mill angel. I'm Gabriel. And I've been sent, that's what Gabriel is. He's a messenger. I've been sent to you to tell you this good news. This is incredible news, Zachariah. This is the long-held desire of your heart and of your wife's Elizabeth's heart to have a child. You're going to have a son, and this isn't just any son. This is a son that the Lord has appointed and will use. He's going to be great in the eyes of God. It's incredible news. How can you be sure? I'm Gabriel. As if no other explanation is needed. And to be honest, I think if Gabriel was standing here before us, no other explanation would be needed. But he answers Zachariah's request. He gives him a sign. Here it is. And now you will be silent and not be able to speak until the day this happens. Well, I guess that's a sign. I could have thought of other signs, perhaps they might be preferable, writing on a wall, or a Gideon's sign in the Old Testament, a sheepskin, wet, and the grass is dry and the grass is wet. That's probably more preferable to not being able to speak. But he answers Zachariah's request. Here's your sign. You're going to be deaf and you're not going to be able to speak. Well, it might seem a little harsh from our perspective. I mean, surely he could have picked another sign. But I think there's a couple of reasons why Gabriel gives a sign in this particular way. Firstly, as we see, when he emerges from the temple, he's gesticulating. He's waving his arms around, making signs, trying to explain to the people what has happened. And do you think he's going to be able to convey what's just happened using his hands? I don't think so. See, this is also about concealing the message, concealing the good news until its proper time. Secondly, I think this is all about Zachariah learning to trust God's message. Now, Gabriel says, well, this is going to happen because you didn't believe my words. And I want to suggest that it's not that Zachariah didn't believe anything. I think he's wrestling and thinking really hard, trying to make sense of it. He's trying to respond positively. But you can imagine this is big news to take in. Well, he's going to have some time now to ponder Gabriel's message. He's deaf, he can't speak, but through this he's going to be learning what it is to really trust God's message. Well, he emerges, as I said, and he can't speak to the people. He can't fulfill the duties of the priest that he was meant to fulfill. And the people realize, rightly, they draw the correct conclusion that he's seen a vision in the temple. And well, we read that when his time of service was complete, he returned home. And after this, we're told Elizabeth, his wife, becomes pregnant. And for 5 months, she remains in seclusion. She withdraws. Now, why does Elizabeth withdraw? Why does she hide away? Well, I think it's got something to do with the fact that she, again, is, in a sense, keeping this news secret. This great news is being concealed until its proper time. It's serving the same function as Zachariah not being able to speak and not being able to hear. this incredible news is being wrapped up. It's for these two people to know and to hold on to until the right time. But secondly, I think for Elizabeth, this is a time of praise and preparation. Having a baby's a big deal. If it's your first, having a baby at Elizabeth's age, well, I have no idea what that's like. She's old. She shouldn't be able to have a baby. And so I'm sure there's a time of preparation there in terms of her body and her emotions and her mind. But even more than that, this is a time of praise. The Lord has done this for me. In these days, he has shown his favour and has taken away my disgrace among the people. God has dealt with the source of public shame that Elizabeth has had to carry her entire married life. As we said some weeks ago, having children, in particular having sons, was understood as a sign of God's blessing and favour. That this was also a way of guaranteeing your future. And to not have children, to not have a son, was to fail as a wife. Completely unfair, ridiculous in some senses, but in that particular cultural context, that's how people believed, that's how people responded. And so that's still the guilt and the shame that Elizabeth had to bear. It was real. And God graciously, in preparing what's next for the people of Israel and preparing what's next for the people of the world, his next steps in his great plan to save people, he also deals with Elizabeth's personal shame, her personal sense of guilt and unworthiness. And that's the kind of God that this God is, a God who holds the whole world in his hands and cares for everyone, but at the same time zooms in to the individual and comes alongside and says, I've heard you, and I've heard your pain, and I'm doing something about it. And so Elizabeth withdraws, no doubt to praise and to prepare for what's next. So as we bring this week's episode of Looking Through Luke to a close, I wonder, as you're wrestling with God, maybe whether you believe him or not, maybe whether you believe in Jesus or not, maybe whether you're struggling to keep going, struggling to keep believing, to keep following, whether in your heart you've found yourself yearning or looking for a sign. Anyone ask God that? God, just give me a sign. Well, I have. And I know people that have. And sometimes God has seemingly graciously given people a sign. And sometimes he hasn't. And sometimes for those that he hasn't, they've given up in despair and wondered whether God was real, was ever real. And for others to whom he hasn't, they've persevered and they've clung on. And I think for us, whatever our situation, we can draw comfort whether we receive a sign or not from Zachariah. For how he responded. There's nothing wrong with desiring a sign. There's nothing wrong with wrestling positively to try and work out and hold on to what's true. But we can also see through him, through someone that did receive a sign, that it was a part of helping him understand what it means to trust God's message. And friends, you and I, whether we receive personal signs in our lives, we can still practice trusting God's message. We can still look at the signs that God has given others, given his people like Zachariah, and we can still allow those to work in our hearts, a decision to cling on and to trust and to believe that God's purposes and plans are good. And as we'll see unfold in the Gospel of Luke, his plans and purposes ultimately center on Jesus. And that's where we're headed, and that's the one in whom we're investigating and considering. So keep hanging in there. Keep withholding your judgment and wait until we look at all the evidence as Luke presents it to see and make up our own minds who this person Jesus really is. See you next time. Thanks so much for watching, and if you made a comment, thanks for participating. Open to suggestions too, so let us know what would be helpful. If you did get something out of it, I'd love it if you just like and subscribe to our channel. Hit the like bell notification, hit the like. What it does, it really helps the YouTube algorithm and gets these out to more and more people. So we're not trying to build a massive following or a massive channel. We're actually just trying to communicate the truth of who Jesus is. And if that's something that resonates with you, we'd love your support by doing those two simple things. Thank you. See ya.